All right, two more excerpts, and they both go
Well,
to.
can I ask
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
do you think the Bidens will respond? There's two
Yes,
issues. What will it
yes.
be? I will be interested to see if they push back at all.
Yeah,
They're
I
going
was going to
to
say the same thing.
they're going to come back, and I'll tell you why I'm relatively confident about that because of these next two things. As I have reported before, and others have too, but I believe my reporting on this has been longer and deeper than most. Hold on with this one. Uh, this vice president was treated better than any vice president, with the possible exception of Dick Cheney, and really not in modern era, because since Walter Mondale, because Joe Biden felt the sting of how he was treated. He was treated worse than any vice president in the modern era by the Obama team. They didn't want to pick him in the first place. Their view was let Barack Obama run by himself. Why do we need a running mate who will drag us down? They had to pick somebody because the Constitution called for it. And they treated Joe Biden like crap throughout the 8 years, culminating, of course, with the refusal to not only refusal to support him for the nomination in 2016, but basically said, no, Joe, you can't win. So having been treated so poorly, the West Wing treated her great. And as I have reported, I'll use the word, they covered up for her and her inadequacies. And so what's going to piss off a lot of people in Biden world is these next two excerpts in which the vice president basically says, I was awesome. I
Yeah.
brought peace between the United States and France. I solved the border crisis.
Well, no, that it
And
wasn't a border crisis. That's
yes,
not what she was
yeah,
tasked. That's what she argued.
I'm being hyperbolic.
Yep.
And they didn't support me. So here's the first excerpt along these lines. Go ahead and put that one up, B, please. And when the stories were unfair or inaccurate, the president's inner circle seemed fine with it. Indeed, it seemed as if they decided I should be knocked down a little bit more. I can tell you this is the opposite of what happened. They went to extraordinary lengths and were frustrated at the amount of time they had to spend defending the vice president when she messed up. And she's charging. She says in the excerpt, when my poll numbers went up, they felt threatened. And so they didn't defend me. Sean, thoughts on this one?
So the example she cites is when she's in Paris and she uses the phrase, and it got a lot of attention. Everyone might remember the plan. And she says, I intentionally was doing this exaggerated French accent. Newsmax, Fox, and whoever else she cites says went nuts and they didn't do anything. They allowed it to stand as a gaffe. It was a gaffe. I mean, like the idea that she's citing examples and then saying, I can't believe that no one knew that those weren't gaffes. Those were me just being like hyperbolic for intentionally. I, I'm actually just blown away how tone deaf this whole thing
No.
is.
It's so tone deaf and it's so whiny. No vice president in American history in my career has been more thoroughly defended by the West Wing than Kamala Harris.
Well,
That's what
I don't even think it's close.
But
and
Mark,
Mark,
she gets to the point of the turnover in her staff, and she
Well,
says they
hold on.
allowed the narrative.
All right.
Okay.
Let Dan respond on this one. Then we'll get to
yeah, let me just add, because this is an important thing for her character. I know a lot of people who worked for her going back to her AG race, her first Senate race, her presidential. The one constant through line that everyone has that worked for her is she blames everybody for everything. There's never, any self-awareness about what she did to contribute to.
All right. Let me read the next excerpt.
And you see this.
Let me read the next excerpt. Go ahead. Next one. This is about the staff question. She claims that the turnover was normal. That it was just people couldn't handle, couldn't cut it working in the West Wing or the old executive office building. Quote, worse, I often learned that the president's staff was adding fuel to negative narratives that sprang up around me. One narrative that took a stubborn hold was that I had a chaotic office and unusually high staff turnover during my first year. So there's two issues here. One is she goes to great lengths to explain that her staff turnover was totally normal and not a product of what Dan just said. That's false. Her staff turnover was a product of what Dan said. Anyone who's worked for her, even people who defend her, will tell you that. She blames the staff when things go wrong. And the first part of this, the notion that the president's staff added fuel to the negative narratives, I can't tell you the number of hours and days they spent trying to help her team and her tamp these stories down. It's the exact opposite of what she charges.
Well, and one of the things she says in here is that that her staff was new to the West Wing, new to the vice president's office, and so she didn't know how they would perform because this was such a new job and that is normal. That is not true. There were a lot of people who had worked in previous administrations,
Correct.
who had worked in very, very senior positions in the U.S. Senate, which is similar.
Correct.
So to say that they were inexperienced and I had to determine if they could do the job is simply not true.
Right. Does this excerpt, the rest of the book's coming, does this excerpt, Dan, suggest to you she was going to run for president or not?
It suggests to me she wants to run for president. She's trying to do the things to be in a position to run for president, but nobody in the party wants her to do this.
Sean?
Well, she, by the way, she talks about the staff chaos and then it goes on to say, this is normal.
Yeah.
And it's not normal. And like Biden did, now granted, Biden had been vice president prior, but like, it's just not true. And so here's the thing. I don't know if she was going to. I will be interested to see not just the Biden reaction, but the rest, because one of the other things that she talks about is she's a loyal person. Like, this is like the most insane thing ever. I'm loyal, but he just sucks. And let me tell you why.
Can either of you think of
disloyal?
Obviously, we've seen political memoirs that settle scores, but can either of you think of a book, again, just based on this excerpt, of someone making false charges, demonstrably false charges about what happened in a whiny and defensive way while claiming to be loyal and criticizing the man who made her vice president? Can anyone think about analogs for this?
Look,
no, and I would also say I've never seen someone punch so far down going after all the staff. And what would worry me if I'm her is that staff is super friendly with reporters. They know where the bodies are buried.
Correct.
But
let me say one thing. She names no names.
Yeah.
To me, that is gutless. She's painting them all with a broad brush. Right. And I can tell you, Ron Klain and what's the guy's name? Jeffrey Zients, those guys are not named, but I believe she's referring to at least one of them. And it is the height of irony that she is making criticism of people whose jobs, doing their real jobs, were hampered with the hours and hours they had to spend on this.
Well, I also just want to add how badly this reflects on both her and Biden. I mean, it is apparent it was a complete snake pit-esque show before they even got into the office.
But that's the thing is, it wasn't. It wasn't. She's creating this notion that the West Wing was her enemy when
But Mark, isn't it true that she had that grievance from like day one?
Yes, but it's false. But it's not
right. But that is a mess.
Okay,
I mean, that's a mess.
So let's. The thing that I find so amazing about the level of tone deafness is she was rejected by her own party prior to the Iowa caucuses. She was no one until Joe Biden rescued her and picked her. She couldn't win a student council election. She owes everything to this guy. So the idea that she's now saying I'm loyal is ridiculous. I think that she has done more damage to herself, any notion that she could run, no one will want to work for her. This is the one thing that I've said about Trump world, is that all these guys who ran out and read books and got the short-term stuff are paying the price now. If that's what you want to do, sell out for the quick buck or the easy headline right off the bat, you will never be trusted again. And you're seeing the consequences in Trump 2.0. Right. But the other thing is, here's the one thing that's going to come out. I believe all these stories and these rumors about her drinking, her erratic behavior, I have a feeling Katie bar the door, baby, because it's all coming out now.
Yeah. Two more things, and then we'll move on. And the reason we spent a lot of time on this, besides the fact that it broke shortly before we came on the air, is because this is going to have implications to the Democratic Party. Yep. It really is. Now, two things. One is, by the way, she says Joe Biden had no cognitive decline.
Yeah, she says he was tired.
He was tired because he had a lot of flights. So we're back to a Democrat who obviously saw his cognitive decline, just claiming it didn't occur. And the second thing is there no one in her life who could have stopped her from writing this? Because any staffer who had the least bit of a strong relationship would have said, you are picking a fight with a couple that is vindictive, that has assassins working for them, and you're picking it based on lies. You're picking it based on
Mark,
rewriting history. I will say that in addition to doing Smirconish, I'm getting a lot of inquiries about whether I'm available to do TV hits today, because as some of you know, I previously predicted based on reporting that if Kamala Harris took a shot at Team Biden would fire back. So I'm available to comment on that. But
will that reporting or Spidey sense? Will shots be fired today?
I believe there'll be some preliminary shots today, but the big guns are going to consider their options until they see the full book.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
full book.
Yeah.
That's
stand
very
by.
That's
unlike
good.
them.
This is gonna be this.
Stand
I
by.
think this is gonna be very interesting in book terms of book sales.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes. Yeah. Whole thing.
Well-
Anyway, thank you all for being part of the two-way community.
That was a delicious video experience. I think you'll agree. Now, what you need to do in return for getting to enjoy that is hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss a thing.